Good afternoon and welcome to this panel at Research and Innovation Days on Women Founders and Funders. My name is Keith Sequeira. I work at the European Innovation Council, Europe's newest, most ambitious innovation programme. It's my pleasure to be joined by four women founders and funders for this panel. So let me introduce them and let them introduce themselves. So let me start with Judith Giraud-Bennett. Judith is one of the Women Tech EU companies that we are supporting. She's a member of the Commissioner's Women Founders Group and co-founder and CEO of the Blue Box. Judith, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I am Judith. I am a biomedical engineer from Barcelona. And at the Blue Box, we're developing an electronic nose to detect breast cancer from the smell of urine.
Welcome, Judith. And if I can introduce Christina Kovacs-Schreiner. She is one of the companies we are supporting from the European Innovation Council. She's also an ambassador for the European Innovation Council and the CEO of Lixia. Christina, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Keith. So I'm CEO of a small company called Lixia with a very big idea, returning wastewood and leftover agricultural residues into useful and profitable commodity materials. By training, I'm a biochemical engineer, and I have been working in the area of novel material development for the last 10 years.
Welcome, Christina. Let me turn now to Vanda Horakova-Seydulova. She's a member also of the Commissioner's Women Founders Group and CEO of Twixy. Vanda, please, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. So my name is Vanda, and I am CEO and founder of Twixy. We are a software management platform for preschools. Currently, we are serving for more than 60,000 families daily in 14 countries. And we are saving time for teachers and parents on the paperwork and connect them so that kids can benefit from it. And apart from that, my education is in diplomacy and political science. And this is one of the reasons why I joined Female Founders Forum by European Commission.
Great, Vanda, and we'll come back to this. And if I can introduce our last panelist, Anna Wanuk. Anna is Head of Community at the European Women VC and Investor Relation Manager at Xperia, the venture fund. Anna, please.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Well, as you mentioned, I'm the Head of Community of European Women in VC. This is a platform of almost 10,000 members right now across Europe, fighting for the agenda of equality of capital in venture space. And every day I work for a fund which is based in Warsaw and funded and led by female. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Anna. So let's start the discussion. What I'd encourage all of you listening into this is to ask your questions. We'll leave some time. You can use the Slido. You can find the Slido hashtag on your screens. It's hashtag RIDays22-5, and we'll come back to those questions. At the European Innovation Council, we spend a lot of time and attention on women founders and funders. If I can start by listing 5 things that we are doing. We try to have gender-balanced evaluations, and the EIC board that advises us is 10 women, 10 men. We're promoting women-led companies in our accelerator program, which Christina is being supported by. We are supporting the Women Tech EU scheme, so it's great to have Judith here. This is a scheme for early-stage female founders in deep tech. We run, as part of this, a women leadership program for our female CEOs and for the Women Tech EU scheme. And something very new that we'll be starting in the coming months is an Innovation Gender and Diversity Index, really to track what's happening in the innovation ecosystem, how we're improving, where the problems are. If I can start with one statistic, and I know, Anna, this comes from a report that you produced, less than 2% of VC funding goes to women-led teams. So that is an illustration of the kind of problems that we're facing and we're going to discuss today. So let's start the discussion. And my first question is for the two of you who are on Commissioner Gabriel's European Women Founders Group initiative. So I'd like to ask you, what made you join the Women Founders Group? What are your expectations from this group? So if I can start with you, Judith, to reply first on this.
Great, thank you. Well, innovation in the medical device space, specifically, which is my field, is not only about engineers working on innovation. There's something very important that I think I have learned during these first years of having a company, that we biomedical engineers, we need to work closely with policymakers and with public healthcare systems. Like, as we mentioned, research is the ability to convert capital into knowledge or technology, and innovation is the ability to convert technology into capital. Capital being a broader aspect of work, like good rewards for countries and everything. So, as a biomedical engineer, public healthcare systems are one of the best assets that Europe has, right? As a biomedical engineer, being born in Europe is great news, because it means that all innovation that you will see around you will potentially be democratized to everyone. However, these public healthcare systems, these policymakers that have the goal to bring innovation to everyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, regarding on location where people are, these policies have the risk of slowing innovation down. And indeed, like medtech startups will have a harder time penetrating public healthcare systems than they will have penetrating private healthcare systems, right? So that's the reason why, or that's the main reason why I joined this group. As a conclusion, there are three things that I would like to say. First is public healthcare systems are one of the reasons why making building or founding a medtech startup in Europe makes the most sense. I do believe that we need these healthcare policies, even though they might slightly increase the rate of startups dying before entering the healthcare system. I think it's needed. And then thirdly, I believe that EU Commissioner Maria Gabriel initiative to found the European Women Founders Group is a super effective solution to change that, to shift from public or governmental systems being the toughest barrier to penetrate for startups, to being some means to make innovation or a safety net to ensure that your innovation will reach everyone.
Thanks so much, Judith. If I can pose the same question now to Vanda. Vanda, what made you join the group? What are your main expectations from the group?
I would definitely join Judith on that. When I got the invitation to participate, it was a very unique opportunity to actually share the practical point of view, what we have, because as I mentioned, my training is in diplomacy and political science, and I used to serve for many think tanks, both in Czech Republic and abroad. And I could see how the policies are being made, and usually it takes some time. On the other hand, in startup community and ecosystem of VC and funding, everything is so fast. Basically, during 1 month, we can do almost what can be done on political level during 1 year. And I believe that this experience and basically try to connect this together in one ecosystem, and to bring aboard also as many other female founders and people from the practical point of view. Also, very important thing is that there are kind of barriers that we are facing, but some of them are not what is supposed to be or what everyone is thinking that it is. We are not lacking great women. We are not lacking the great women in education. They are there. But what is missing, for example, is the greater support for combination in between career development and family development, etc. And since I'm also a mom and I founded my startup when I was a single mom, I can also share this experience as anything is possible, and that there are also ways how to handle everything together. So I want to share this, and I believe that any hand that will help us in this joint venture, it's going to be definitely useful for all female founders and funders as well.
Thanks so much for your thoughts, Vanda. I'd like to stay on this area of what are the barriers, what needs to be done, and turn to you now, Christina. So you've been building a successful company. What would be your tips to other women starting their business and who would like to grow their companies?
That's an excellent question. I think that the often repeated steps to acquiring the relevant qualification, experience, connections, and so on. All of these things are very important, of course, but before anything else, I think you have to look after yourself. Take time to nurture your mental and physical health. This may sound obvious and often it's not easily achievable, but after all, who has the time when starting out with a million things to sort out? Have a long-term success is only achievable if you are fully prepared and have resilience. Which brings me to the next point. I think support. Make use of all your support network, friends, family, anyone at work who could really listen to you. For work or for helping with other aspects of life, even for your peace of mind. I guess what I'm trying to say is lay proper foundation for your venture, and only with those you will be able to take the hard knocks coming down the line. And there will be many challenges, no doubt of that. But if you're passionate, enthusiastic, and also have extreme determination, it will take you to places which you never imagined. So I think these are the things that you need: great foundation and have that kind of physical and mental strength to carry on fighting it and enjoying it. I think that's the other important thing. You have to enjoy it each and every day. It needs to be an adventure that gives you energy. And yeah, I think these are my not really secret, but probably that these are the things that have been helping me.
Thanks, Christina. I think that's great advice for everybody out there, probably some men as well as women. I'd like to now turn a little bit to the perspective of an investor and come to Anna. So, I mean, Anna, when you see and what venture capitalists see when they're looking at investing in company, what do investors see? What are they looking at for women-led ventures to scale up?
I think the problem is not as easy as we are thinking. Well, we usually tend to talk about the 2% of capital going to female founders or 10% going to mixed teams, because I think that's a better metric. But what we are looking at is actually how the capital flows and what is the investors actually problem on top, and why actually the problem at the bottom for founders is actually there. Well, the first thing that I identified always, and this is what we've been researching for some time now, is that the problem is actually historic, right? Women lack network, women lack friends in the industry, and the industry has been very male dominated. For 10 years, I think, or 10 years ago, I think there were no female GPs at all. So eventually female founders did not have, female entrepreneurs did not have the support in the top. We use the term called investors' homophily. That means that investors invest into something they know or invest into people alike. So naturally, if you don't have diverse teams making the investment decisions, that in the diverse founders teams struggle to get capital. So just to illustrate that in numbers, we recently published a report that you just mentioned, is that the problem is not only on the bottom, right? That means in the startup level. We as investors also struggle to get capital. We possess only 9% of all European venture capital, and this is what we have been deploying, only 9%. And that's not even well, we don't stop here. If we go up the level and talk about LP, so those people that we investors get money from, we interact only with 20% of female at the top. So the problem is very complex. And so that's one thing, right? How capital flows is the historical thing. And the third thing that I had identified that women can struggle in the market, and we investors see, it's an environment that's really not friendly for women. The market is still not ready for diversity. Thus, the market tends to do ad hoc actions, which are more marketing based and marketing driven than real value. And they don't have real value. The investors, NLPs, and people in the industry in general, they don't notice how important it is from the financial side also to invest into diversity. So with those few things, I'd like to maybe open a little bit of a discussion, because well, that's just my side, but I guess the ladies that are striving for capital every day, they will have a little bit more to say on that.
Great. Maybe I can turn to Christina. I mean, we spoke before, Christina. I know you're fundraising at the moment. So, what has your experience been pitching to funds, approaching funds? Do you find a very male environment? How do you find it?
I think we've been received really well. I think they appreciate the diversity of our team. If anything, we are very female heavy. We actually have more female scientists, engineers on board than most companies. So we're quite lucky from that angle. I haven't experienced any discrimination or any hardship when it comes to pitching or even talking about tech or being taken seriously. So I think the environment is changing for sure. We are talking to, when we talk to VCs, most of them are male, sort of driven and managed by male leaders. But so far, it's been very, very positive. So I'm enthusiastic. I have no real challenges, I guess, so far. Talking to investors within this bioeconomy funding space.
Thanks a lot. And I suspect, and what I hear is it's different in different fields. Some areas of technology are different from other areas. Maybe, Vanda, your perspective on this. I don't know to what extent you've been looking for funding for your company and what your experience has been.
Thank you. So we're also on a journey of raising both in Europe and the United States. And one good thing is that I have to say for pitching or from professional perspective and point of view, I haven't found discrimination in a level that I would get, let's say, inappropriate question, etc. On the other hand, what I think is a little different, and this is one of the things that I hope I could be kind of ambassador for, is that to the same goal or to the same aim can lead different journeys in different ways. And when we're talking about, let's say, the values and integrity, women's set and sometimes men's set could be different. And I think it's totally fair to admit it. And if someone is cooperating with female founders, I think it's also fair enough to say, okay, for the metrics and for the business perspective, we don't need a difference. All investors in the end invest into the healthy companies which perceive the good results, of course. No one gives you money just because you're a female founder. But how to do it and the way how to lead your team, how to communicate, and how to, let's say, behave as a founder and as a leader. I believe that there are different ways how to do it. And I chose maybe a little unpopular way, but I believe that many female founders can find this as an example. And I hope I can be the role model for more women to actually start their own businesses and not to be worried. One important thing to mention is that no matter how you do it, you have to be ready not to be popular, because there will be many people that will want to have opinion on no matter what you do. And to admit this, it was very hard for me as well. But in the end, when I overcame this barrier, and it was barrier in my head that I had to please everyone, it really helped me to actually focus more on my journey.
Great. I think that's another positive message and great advice. Maybe I turn now to you, Judith. What's been your experience in your company of raising funding and how you think it's been perceived?
Well, we have started like fundraising, but we don't need like the money till next summer. So, but still the experience I have, I agree with Vanda. I think that like there is something different about fundraising if you're a woman, and I have not seen anything directly look like, whoa, that happens because I'm a woman, but there are things implied in the fact that you're a woman. I have seen differences in women-led VCs acting differently than male-led VCs, and I think that lies to like being a woman is not, in my point of view, it's not a discrimination, it's an oppression. Why? They will not put you aside. They will not tell you, I will not invest in you, because I mean, they know that women-led companies are more like, how you say it, like they produce more than male-led companies. They will not turn down your offer, but they will have more expectations out of you. Not VCs, the world, society. Being a woman means having more expectations set in you. And how does that translate into fundraising? Well, I think that we are less ambitious. This is not good news, this is not bad news, this is an observation, but like a personal observation that we can choose to change, or we can keep being like this way. Everyone can do whatever they want. But I think that we will always say we have a lower TRL. Women-led VCs will put less money than male-led VCs. I have seen that, at least in Spain. It's only one example I know, but I have seen that. So I think that the problem is not discrimination, oppression, and it's in the details. It's not anything that you will see on the first sight.
Thanks, Judith. I'd like to come back to Anna. So Anna, I mean, I don't know what your reactions are to what you've heard from the other panelists, but I'd also like to ask you about this issue that there are very few women actually in the VC industry, and to see what you think about what can be done about this. What are your views on this and your reactions to some of the discussion, Anna?
Just one quick comment to what Judy just said. Well, the smaller tickets from women-led funds actually come from smaller funds that women raise. So they just don't have that money at their disposal, right? And yes, as every woman, they will make smarter and I think more calculated decisions than most of men businesses. So that's much different. And just to be completely frank with you, I'm not for having women-led only venture space. I'm into diversity. So the perfect world would be when the teams will be at least 33% of the other gender, and this is how a real diversity is, and not only at the top, I mean, GP level, but also as investment team compositions. We should have people of different backgrounds, and those people will notice the best in projects, and they actually will generate the best returns. So just to straighten that up, we are not investing as much as men just because we don't have as much money at the disposal in general. But coming back to your question, Keith, we as a 27 general partners from across Europe, that's a group led by Commissioner Gabriel, actually issued and handed over a white paper petition last year in July, I believe. And that petition had 3 asks or solutions, if you like to call them. We believe that in order to change the industry, not only for venture capitalists, but actually for startups and for people, right, in general, for the society, we need capital. So we need capital at the top, and we have, well, not a dream, but let's say a goal, to have a 3 billion euros fund of funds that will really anchor the emerging female managers, and will deploy enough capital in order for them to be able to distribute capital down to diverse teams at the startup level. The second thing was data. So enough data to illustrate the market, and then illustrate how the market changes, how the market develops, or is stopped at some point. So, and that European Women in VC took on its shoulders, issuing the Pan-European report this May. And the third thing was a lot of structural change, right? So the industry have to be ready for diverse managers. We have to step out of the box and think how to make it a friendly environment for female entrepreneurs, both venture capitalists and startup founders. Well, of course, and a lot of extra things that are, I think everybody couldn't live without, like brilliant accelerations programs that EU is running. Amazing support of mentors and networks. So those are the things that we cannot live without. But yes, I think coming back to the white paper petition, it was signed by almost 2,000 people from the industry. I think if we follow that and try to change at least 1 or 2 points from that, that could actually make the venture space a little bit different and break down this 2% of capital at the bottom threshold.
Thanks a lot, Anna. And I mean, one of the things that struck me from the recent report you put out is that actually, if you look at the data we see, The numbers are not really going in the right direction. They're low, but the trend is not really where we want it to be. And this is one of the reasons why we're launching this Gender and Diversity Innovation Index, so we can really track this on a comparable basis across countries and also across time, and see where we're making progress and where the problems are. But I pick up a lot of kind of positive messages from the discussion, that there's huge potential there, and there is a potential for change as well. We're going to turn in a minute to some of the questions on the Slido, so please put your questions in. But let me just have a last question to a couple of our panelists. I think, Christina, you told us a bit the story and your tips from the beginning, but I'd like to turn to Judith and Vanda and to ask them the question: if you were starting out again on your company, what would you do differently? So let's start with Vanda for this question.
Well, there's definitely many things I would done differently. But first of all, I would admit that maybe earlier that I don't have to be perfect, because to be perfect founder, perfect mother, perfect wife, perfect friend, it's impossible. And you need people around. You need to have the support from your family and from your friends and from your colleagues. So admit that this is necessary. It's one of the first things. Second is that I would more work with my intuition, because when I know something, usually 99% of time, in the end, it ends up this way. But I was tending to give the people the third, fourth, fifth chance, because I was not able to divide the business and personal part of our relationship with my colleagues. So this is the second thing, which brings me to the third thing, and it is that, as I already mentioned, you will not be popular for many of your decisions and steps, but you have to make them, because as a founder, you do the best for the company. But this is maybe the last point for myself, is to still stay yourself, because no matter how work you're gonna hard and what decisions you have to make, if you do your best and if you are always true to yourself, to your team, and to your company, you will stand for your decisions, and no matter how hard they are, you can also defend them. Also, many people want to help you and maybe give you examples, people from community, investors, and so on. But you have to be strong in your beliefs and not to be dragged, let's say, from left to right. And if this is something what someone have to maybe grow into. It happened to me recently, and I'm happy that I made this shift. Yeah, so these are a couple of things I would done differently, and I support everyone to just be yourself.
Thanks a lot, Vanda. And I think this is echoing what Christina said, that also you have to be easy on yourself as well. I don't know, Judith, from your perspective, what you would have done differently, whether you sort of have similar advice that you've heard, or whether you would like to, disagree with some of the comments made so far, which is fine as well. What are your views, Judith? What would you have done differently?
No, I mean, I agree a lot. I think my opinion is similar to other panelists. What I have learned the most is that having a team is everything. For example, today I was at work and I was having a fever, a temperature, and my team was telling me, go home, So it's ask for help, and asking for help makes you stronger, doesn't make you more vulnerable. And in fact, being vulnerable is one of the biggest or best qualities that I like in people. So that's one thing I learned. Something that I would also have done differently is when I started, I didn't know well what all stages of innovation were like. This is something that is not taught at schools. So typically at university, I was always told that innovation in the medical field was it took so much time, only huge corporations were allowed to do it. We were even discouraged to not do it because it was impossible. And then that changed when I started having a network around me. Right now, I look around and I see a lot of other startups led by amazing teams. And there's so many people doing so many things. Of course, not all the companies will end up in the market, but only sad thing is that only 10% of startups, that's a statistic, right? Only 10% will make it, but a lot of people is trying. And There are so many ways, especially in Europe, to try. For example, when you have an idea, then it's easy to get funded. Well, easy, because local governments have a lot of like awards and grants to support you, even universities and everything. Then there is this gap in the middle in which you are too far away, like too advanced to keep asking awards for idea stage, and you are too far away still from EIC accelerator. So you're kind of in a gap. And then is when you might die as a startup. And then you reach the final phase in which investors see that you will actually make it to the market, and then investors are willing to invest. So what I would do differently is try to generate scientific evidence of the technology as soon as we can, because there's going to be a gap in which your government will not fund you. The EIC accelerator is too far away from you. Private investors will not fund you. You will need to have evidence. But that's it.
Thanks a lot, Judith, and I hope you're feeling better for the panel this afternoon.
Thank you.
I know from the EIC side, as I said, we're really trying to get more women-led companies to come in, but we're also looking at financing at a bit earlier stage to address the kind of problem that you mentioned there. Let's now turn to some of the questions coming in on Slido. So I see the first question here is about going beyond gender and thinking more broadly about diversity. So the question, I'm not sure if the panelists can see the question, but the first question is, do you think there is a diversity issue in investment in the VC world, diversity in a broad sense and not just gender? So I'm going to put this question to Anna first to see what your views are. And I know from our side, I mentioned we're doing a gender and diversity index. But I also know it's, how we look at diversity can be different in different countries. It can be a sensitive issue as well. So what are your views about, do we need to broaden this debate to other aspects of diversity, and how do we do that? Over to you, Anna.
Right. I think many of alike institutions and platforms like ours do brought up that question or the problem up. Well, we particularly focus on gender just because, well, we come from the Central and Eastern European region. This is where we started our research and networking work. So we focused mostly on a gender issue because that one was the most vivid and most evident. But if we look at Western Northern European countries, you can see that the issue of people of color, LGBTQ, and aging societal silver economy, that pops up there. Well, we believe, and that's my personal opinion, that diversity comes in all shapes and sizes. And this is the only way, considering different people, different opinions, backgrounds, color, gender, and age, right? And building a team, investment team like that, this is the only way to succeed. And this is the only way to actually grasp all the opportunity in the market. Right? Because the problems that, venture capital space is financing and startups are fixing, right, comes to everybody. And the solutions are actually answers to all problems of the entire society, not only male part of the society. So you need decision makers on the top, and those ones that are distributing capital, understanding the issues that need to be tackled, right? And finance those who are able and understand those issues. So yes, diversity comes in all shapes and sizes, and it should come. And sorry not to be able to deliver the research, but if anybody is interested, I'll be happy to point out to some data that's not only gender.
Great, thanks a lot, Anna. I think Vanda, you wanted to comment on this as well, please.
Thank you. Quite recently, I was part of Diversity Summit, and we were granted the Diversity Disruptor Award because we were talking a lot about exactly this issue. And what I always mention is that we have to look at many aspects, not just sex, not just religion or sexual preference. We are also talking about the age. We have around so many founders that are on high schools, and they also have problems to actually get fundraising or to kind of become serious for many people. Also, this is about the countries. We have colleagues, for example, from Uzbekistan and from Africa. So I believe that we should start with ourselves. That's great to create, let's say, national politics and EU policies and so on. But everyone can start with ourselves. We can hire the colleagues, we can hire the moms on maternity leave and give them part-time jobs. We can create positions for colleagues who are disabled and so on. And thanks to COVID, we are able to work on many things remotely. I'm not saying that in every industry, but in many industries or many jobs can be created remotely. So I support this, and I just wanted to thank also for this opportunity to mention that, because diversity is key engine for, let's say, creating awesome companies, because only variety of point of views and perspectives can create something what will be in the end useful for whole society.
Great. Thanks very much for that, Vanda. I'm going to turn to another question that's coming in from Slido. I think it's an interesting question. So maybe I could start with Christina for this question. So how do you think the fact that you're a woman has shaped your business decisions on the innovations, the direction you've taken your company? Do you think it's had an impact? How do you think it's affected your development of your company?
I believe we have many more discussions and give an opportunity for everyone to express their drive and passion behind the business. So I think for me, it's very important that everyone is with me whenever I make a decision. So we definitely involve everyone in that sense. I don't like to be just telling people what to do. I want them to really join the thinking and the vision each and every day. So I think this is just a different style. I think my decision is, decision making itself is very firm and fair, but at the same time, it's more open to be challenged, and definitely I do more listening than talking most of the time. So I think this is where my personality and also how I see the world really comes to leading a company, at least from my angle.
Thanks, Christina. Maybe I'll ask the same question to Judith. I mean, how do you see your role as a woman affecting the decisions that you make, the direction you take the company? Judith. I
think that right now, women lead differently than men. That's a fact. It's due to, society is planned this way, and due to what you have seen when you were a kid, how you grow up, what is expected from you, you will lead differently. However, I think that, that's a personal opinion. Maybe that's what I see, is that the trend is not to say women can own. So the point here is every time we are less binary and more queer. I see younger generations, I'm 25, but younger generations, every time they feel more human and less male or female, right? So what I think is that maybe, I don't know, that's a question for the audience also, instead of trying to have women leadership be also accepted by BCs and by society, maybe what we could do is stop saying women leadership, male leadership, and just forget about this binomial, because younger generations are doing it. So maybe that's what we will end up doing, all of us.
Very, very interesting. So this is a great discussion, but we are coming towards the end of it. So I'm going to ask for a last round of interventions from each of their panelists. You get 1 minute each to answer this question. It's a compound question with 2 parts, just to warn you. So the first part of the question, what would you like to achieve next? And how can the European Union help you with that? So let's start with Anna first for that question. Anna, you have 1 minute.
Hi, I hope I can be a little bit of controversial person here. Well, first of all, I'd like to see exactly what just Judith said. a world where we'll no longer refer to female investors, female founders, female mentors, female everything, that we just turn to investors who are all professionals, entrepreneurs, and we actually have the equality in the market. So this is all work of European women in VC going towards. And the second thing, the more controversial one, we just need capital. And that's, sorry to be very frank, but this is the answer to everything. We can do a lot of extra things in the side, but if we do not deploy and equalize the market, we'll be struggling with the small numbers forever. So that's from me. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, Anna. So I liked your first point that success is when we're not talking about gender anymore. But also, I mean, of course, putting money is putting resources where we'll have impact. And as many of you have said, women-led companies do tend to outperform male-led companies. So there's a real problem in the market that there's not more resources going. So 1 minute next for you, Vanda. What do you want to do next? How can the EU help you with this?
So for sure, since we are doing education technologies, we want to expand the word in a way that pre-K is also the education, that little kids absorb the information as a sponges, and they are 3-4 years before they enter elementary schools. So to expand this vision, you can help us in that way, that will support this education and innovations in this level. But I believe that I can bring also much more than just this thing, and thanks to EFFF platform, I believe we can bring much more women to start their own startups, companies, and to enrich this ecosystem even further. And a small private mission is also to support my son in his journey in primary education, which he just joined.
Thanks a lot, Vanda. So at the macro level, we really need the work of the Women Founders Forum, and then at a very personal level, this applies to every single child as well. And I think education is coming through with one of the messages here. So let me turn for 1 minute now to Judith. Judith, what do you want to do next? How can the EU help you with this?
What I want to do is to make something that people want. So perfectly understand what is the market need and the clinical need for a new breast cancer solution, the screening solution, and not die on the way. And Europe is already helping us do that, because thanks to the Women Tech EU award, like it was like the exact breeze of fresh air between the stage in which we were just an idea concept to the stage in which we will have validated our technology. So that's what we want to do, and we got our help.
Great. Thanks a lot, Judith. And Christina, the last one. What do you want to do next, Christina? How can the EU help you with this?
So first of all, we would not be here without the EU support. We managed to secure 4.3 million from the European Innovation Council and also the Cancer Fund. We built our pilot plant during the pandemic. We had amazing support from various players within this organization, including our project managing officer. So we are already super grateful for all the support that we received so far. So now the challenge is to run the pilot plants that we built. We're working already with small and large players within the food, energy, fuel, and bio-based chemical sphere. So we're hoping to make the technology a success. What we need a bit more money, a bit more support, and I know the EU is doing a lot, including the Innovation Council, by making platforms for industry and also startups to have matchmaking opportunities to build and nourish even more collaboration and commercial projects. So I think we're getting a lot of support, and we're grateful for that. A bit more would be nice, but I think we're quite vocal about our needs, and there are loads of other platforms that are ready available. So for us, it's to see the technology through, do the fundraising, close the rounds, and also deliver the technology itself with the right impact when it comes to environmental, social, and also a healthy financial return. So I hope that we can tell you a lot more about our successes in the coming months.
Great, thanks so much, Christina. Thank you, Judith, Vanda, Anna. I mean, this has been an incredibly useful, interesting discussion. I know personally from the European Innovation Council, it's great to get the positive feedback, but it's also great to get the discussion about what needs to improve. I take there's great potential here, and there's a lot of soft factors, but we also need more capital and money to go to female founders, and there's a lot of reasons for doing this, and it will have a big impact on our societies and innovation in Europe if we succeed on that. So many thanks to all of you for the discussion this afternoon, and thanks for all of you for listening and for the questions coming in on Slido. Many thanks.